Hi, I'm a 23-year-old woman who accidentally drove over 200 plus featuring cliff and survived alone at the bottom for 7 days. AMA. My name is Angela Hernandez. On the 6th of July, 2018, I was driving south on the Pacific Coast Highway. I was driving from Portland, to Southern California. When I was in Big Sur, CA, a small animal stepped onto the road causing me to swerve, which sent my car down a 200 plus featuring cliff and into the water. I was at the bottom of the cliff for a total of 7 days. Long story short, the crash caused me to experience a brain hemorrhage for the first few days, break and fracture both collarbones, fracture 4 ribs, and experience intense sunburns on my hands, feet, and face. I went without water for the first few days until finding a patch of moss that dripped fresh water from the top of the cliff. I used the radiator hose, which had fallen off of my vehicle, to collect water. On the 7th day, right before sunset, I spotted an adventurous couple walking across the beach. They contacted nearby officials and I was lifted up the cliff using ropes and then airlifted to a nearby hospital where I was reunited with my family. It was the craziest week of my entire life. Anyway, yeah, ask me anything. Are you working with Discover Network for a dramatization of this? Sounds like one of those I should have been dead series I think they had some time ago. Are you having flashbacks like stuff? Dreams where you think you are back in the situation? I'm not currently working with any TV series, news stations, or magazines, and I don't really have any plans to work with any in the future. I feel like once people do that, the story no longer becomes theirs. It becomes whatever they think the public will want to hear or eat up. My story feels simple to me, because it was simple to me. As for flashbacks, I've only had one really. My mom was driving and ran over a rock and it made a sound similar to what I heard over and over again while rolling down the cliff. Kind of shook me a bit, because it's such a unique sound. I definitely have dreams about the whole thing. I would never say that what I experienced was traumatizing to me. So, when I look back at it, it feels beautiful. It feels like a lesson, and my dreams reflect that. At any point, did you want to give up? What went through your mind? You know, it's actually pretty crazy. There wasn't a single moment on that beach where I thought that my injuries would have killed me. They didn't hurt that bad. I could still walk, sing, and climb high enough to avoid the tide. It wasn't until I reached the hospital and they told me that someone with my injuries would normally only have a 20% chance to survive, and that's if they had been treated immediately after receiving them. I forgot to put in my post that I also had a collapsed lung. I wouldn't have had any idea that my injuries were actually deadly. I never felt close to death on that beach, so death never really ran through my mind. To be honest, the experience wasn't even necessarily a sad one on my end of things. Like, I had a plan for day 8, for a new way to get the attention of the drivers at the top of the cliff. Giving up wasn't on my mind at all. When I first realized that I was in an accident I thought, you know, you've had a pretty beautiful life, Angela. I felt content, really, with either way it could have worked out. Did you try to eat anything out of desperation? Did your family or friends know something was wrong when they hadn't heard from you? I only tried to eat something once, but it wasn't out of desperation. I knew I had to eat something because of the length of time I had been down there. To be honest, my stomach didn't growl once that entire time. I never felt hungry. It was more a logical thing for me. There were aloe plants scattered throughout the shore and along the cliff. I know aloe is edible, so I figured I'd give it a try. I ate one leaf, but then freaked out because they were all a reddish and green tint and I had no idea if they were actually safe to eat. I felt that way about all of the plants along the shore. I wasn't sure, so I didn't try. My family definitely knew something was wrong. My sister knew something was wrong the same day as my crash. My family and friends worked together to try and find me. They used every resource they could have to spread the word of my disappearance and even drove up and down California searching for me or my vehicle. I'm so humbled by their efforts to find me. I've never felt more love in my life. What outlook in life changed for you after the accident? I think the amount I second guess myself. I'm a musician and have been one for years. I've been too afraid to go to open mic nights or actually show any of my stuff to the world. I feel like this is my second chance for a lot of things. I don't want to be scared to pursue anything I want in life anymore. Ever read the book Hatchet? It's a realistic fiction novel about a 13-year-old boy who was in a small plane going to visit his dad in Canada when the pilot had a heart attack and the plane swerved off course. After a couple hours he managed to crash it into a lake and survive there for a couple months before being rescued. I totally forgot about this book. Thank you for reminding me of it. Reading that was such a fond time in my childhood. This only serves to confirm my biggest fears of that specific highway. Anyways, why did you swerve in that brief moment? Did you value the life of the animal more than your own? Or did you just not want to damage your car from roadkill? Either way, I'm assuming your car is now totaled. The moment where I saw the animal and swerved happened in the blink of an eye. It was an instinct and not a thought out plan. Would I do it again in the same situation? Most likely, because I had no control over that moment. But since this is an AMA, what was your first meal request after the hospital, since you were dreaming about it on the beach? Weirdly enough, the entire time on that beach I was craving Kool-Aid and Jello which is so out of character for me, but it was perfect for when I got to the hospital because I had it. Have you kept in touch with the couple who found you? I'd imagine you all have a lifelong bond now. Secondly, has anyone from Jeep reached out to you? It's pretty remarkable you survived the accident and probably wouldn't have if you were in a different vehicle. No, nobody from Jeep has reached out to me. Either way, I don't think I'll be driving anything other than Jeep for the rest of my life. My Jeep Patriot was my dream car, and now it always will be. How could I ever trust anything else more? Whoa, your story is so inspiring. You really kept your head together and didn't panic. In fact, you make it sound like it was almost a spiritual experience. Do you think this is a personality thing? As in you've always handled stressful situations well or felt really connected with nature? Or was this your brain's way of handling the trauma to keep you alive and safe? Thank you so much. I think I just handled the situation in a way that I handle everything. I've been in some pretty extreme conditions before. I do a lot of disaster recovery and non-profit work. I've always felt like everything is what you make of it. I don't easily get overwhelmed. With this particular situation, I didn't feel like it was hopeless, so I didn't even put that mindset into my head. I knew that, eventually, I would be out of it. I do that a lot. Like, okay, this sucks, but hey, it isn't permanent. This whole experience has definitely changed me, though, if anything, I'm even more optimistic than before. Things usually work out. Why were you not able to use the path your rescuers used? Did your injuries prevent you? My injuries definitely prevented me from doing so. The hikers that I spotted used ropes to get down the cliff. It wasn't a regular trail by any means, more along the lines of rock climbing. You mentioned having a plan at day 8 for getting people's attention. What was it? Also, did they remove your Jeep or leave it there? Okay, so I'm not entirely sure if I could have pulled it off, especially because of how damp the area was because of the water. But I was going to try and create smoke, start a small fire. I've done it one time in my life before using rock sticks and it felt nearly impossible then, but I was planning on staying still all day to work at it. How did you get out of the car on initial impact into the water? I had passed out during the fall and woke up with water up to my knees. My car was pretty banged up, but the windows, aside from the windshield, were still in place. They were cracked and shattered, but almost entirely in place. I couldn't get out of the windshield because the hood of my car was jagged and there was sharpened broken glass all along it. I found a multi-tool I kept in my car and waited until the water was up to my chest. I couldn't really lift my body up and out of the window until then. I smashed the driver's side window and allowed myself to float out of it and swam to the shore and fell asleep for a bit in the sand. Did nobody hear the car falling down? Did nobody see a car at the bottom of a cliff for a whole week? This seems crazy to me. How empty are American highways and their surroundings? Plus, once people noticed you vanished, wouldn't it have been rather easy to find where you were? Just from your mobile phone probably? The service around Big Sur is super spotty. I hadn't been able to make a call for about an hour before my fall, and once I had fallen, my phone was swept into the ocean. As for someone spotting me, it never happened. I'd climb as high as I could and yell at cars driving by. I'm assuming my car just looked like a rock at the bottom. When you're going alongside the Pacific Coast Highway, especially when you're the driver, you can't see the bottom of the cliff. You see far out into the ocean. I tried everything to get drivers' attention, even the 2 or 3 boats I saw out in the distance. I'd swing big leaves in the air and yell at the top of my lungs. None of it worked. It would take someone looking at me at the exact right moment while cruising by at about 50 miles per hour. It never happened. Are you secretly Bear Grylls? I wish he probably would have been out of there on day 1. What was the worst injury you suffered from the accident? A collapsed lung. They had to put thing called a chest tube into me. They had to stick this tube into my lung through a hole in my chest. Not too fun, but the doctors said I have a super high pain tolerance because the procedure injuries I had didn't cause me much pain at all. I think it's all a mindset thing. I was just way too happy to finally be out of that situation that I wasn't focusing on my body at all. What did you do whilst waiting for help? I'd mostly walk and try getting the attention of cars passing by, but when I wasn't doing that, I'd sing, watch tiny crabs walk around in tide pools, and write my name in the sand. What went through your mind directly following the swerve, as you were falling the 200 featuring? Do you remember? That moment happened so fast. I knew I was experiencing a car accident. I wouldn't have guessed I was falling down, though. I remember my arms hitting the roof of my car and a lot of shaking. Shark smile. Big Thief was playing in the background, which is actually pretty ironic because it's about a car accident. Then it felt like I fell asleep. I woke up once I felt water surrounding my legs. Have you thought about selling your story to a movie producer? Nope. Don't think I ever will either. I want it to stay genuine. What kind of disaster recovery and non-profit work do you do? I worked with a non-profit called the St. Bernard Project in New Orleans, LA for about a year, focused on rebuilding homes affected by Katrina. During that year, I was sent to San Marcos, TX for the recovery efforts of the Memorial Day flooding. The year before that, I worked with Habitat for Humanity, All Hands, and similar organizations in the Northeast for Hurricane Sandy recovery, etc. Has the car been collected? I could probably get a group of divers to get out there and collect any personal belongings that might still be down there. Yeah, the car was collected a few days after my rescue. A lot of people were heading out there to go see it firsthand, and I think they removed it for safety reasons. Oh my god, this is my worst nightmare. Plummeting over a cliff. I don't have a question, but I'm very glad you are okay. Actually, I do have a question. Are you now terrified of heights and driving on roads such as the one you drove off of, which I assume was Highway 101? I haven't visited the coast since my accident, but I don't think I'd be scared. Driving has been fine. I've even driven another Jeep Patriot, the type of car I crashed in, along Southern California's hills, and that was fine. I definitely plan on going back to the exact spot of my crash sometime soon, mostly for closure. How's life? As amazing as it's always been. Shark or gorilla, and do you have a so what does that person think about this? Shark and gorilla. Dude, haha. And nope, nobody special in my life at the moment. I talk to one of my exes pretty regularly and we try making jokes out of the whole experience out, but it kind of scares her a bit. It's funny because I wouldn't know how to bring any of this up to any future potentials. Hello friendo. You have been visited by the cozy puppers of Lazy Sundays. Upvote now or you may never have a good relax ever again. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.